Good evening, everybody. It's KB5MIQ Big Boy. Hope I got this camera set right. Oh, hang on one second. There's something to lean my feet on here. Well, I got a couple of subjects we're going to talk about today. One, both of them come off of social media. And I'm going to read this guy's post. And new tech asking a question. So I'm going to address this here because I've seen stuff like this asked several times. I'm a ham technician, had a few questions. When using simplex radio to radio, do you need to be near a repeater? Can you be in the middle of nowhere and use the handhelds themselves? Secondly, I was wondering if you use a simplex radio to radio, what are the procedures when talking? Do I need to say my call sign every time I'm in a conversation? Well, some of the old heads may think that was a dumb question, but it's not. Man asked a legitimate question, and we're going to try to help him out here with it. First off, simplex communication is just handheld to handheld, mobile to mobile, base to base. No repeater involved. So you don't have to worry about a repeater being close to a repeater or anything. Just like your walkie-talkies you had as a kid, straight radio to radio. Do you need to call ID? Rules are you have to ID every 10 minutes. Basically, I'll listen to 5.2 simplex a lot in my shack, and I'll get on there, KB5MIQ monitoring, and that's it. And if somebody calls me back, I'll say let's use Cody's call, W5DLX, KB5MIQ, and we'll have our conversation. Simple as that. And then when we're through talking, W5DLX is KB5MIQ 73 or KB5MIQ clear. Doesn't have to say it every time, but 10 minutes is the rule on IDing. Now, one of the good things about operating simplex, if you're an antenna builder, you will get a better understanding of how far and how well your antenna's working versus just using a homemade antenna head repeater. I hope I can explain this where it makes sense. If you're using, let's use my station for instance. I've got a 3-element Yagi, homemade Yagi, and look at some of my earlier videos, you can see it, Hey Ham Radio Cat, in it, and up right at 50 feet. Well, I actually could pick up a few more repeaters than I could when I just had an omnidirectional vertical up there. But you got to remember this. Say your base antenna is 50 feet and you're talking to, say, the repeater over at Shreveport is 1,200 feet in the air. Yeah, that does help get your signal there better, but they can see you better the higher they are. A good true test of your antenna, if you go back and watch a video I made, one of the subjects is Queen Wilhelmina, and I think it may have been testing 2-meter antenna in it. WD5HKV, W5DLX, and myself did some antenna testing with these 3-element homemade Yagis we made from a plan Jeff had out of TV antennas. In fact, Jeff gave us enough parts for me and Cody to build ours. Jeff and I were on top of Rich Mountain at Queen Wilhelmina State Park with his antenna clamped on a pole. I'm 6'8", the antenna really wasn't much higher than my head, and we had it clamped to a guardrail on a lookout. So the antenna may have been off the ground because we was on the elevated lookout maybe 15 feet, but we was on top of a 2,000 something foot tall mountain. Cody is back here in DeKalb, Texas, with his antenna about 15 feet. Both of them had 5-watt talkies hooked to it. And we were full quiet on each other at 100 miles is what we figured that was. Simplex conversation with 5-watt talkies with antennas. Of course, we was on a mountain, which helped. I'll be the first to admit that. But Cody wasn't 15 feet off the ground. So that gives you a good idea of what you can use simplex for. Like I said, it's a really good avenue and a good path to check an antenna out. Versus, hey, I can hit more repeaters. Yeah, and that's still and I can hit more repeaters with mine now, but I still say the simplex, using the radio simplex is a good way to test your antennas, and it's a good way to make contacts. Because you got to think about this: a lot of your aeronautical contacts will get on 5.2 simplex because he's, depending on what he's flying, at least 10,000 feet in the air. And I've yet to work one. Cody's worked several of them, and that's just a good way to make a good contact, and without having to tie up a repeater. And another good thing about simplex is talking about tying up a repeater. If you just want to rag chew with somebody and you're within simplex range, I recommend getting on a simplex frequency. Band plan will tell you what area those simplex frequencies are in, because you're less likely to get interrupted. You're less likely to aggravate some of the repeater police for tying up a repeater. And plus, you're not on the repeater, using it just to chit chat, and somebody else might need it for some other kind of traffic. Anyway, that's my take on simplex. WD5HKV sent me something last night that we've also seen new techs ask about. And we're seeing a lot of techs that just go by handheld and just stay on VHF, UHF. That's fine. But you're missing a lot of other spectrum that you have access to. So let's go over that right quick. On HF, on 80 meters, from 3.525 to 3.60, you have a CW area. CW only, but you have access to 80 meters. On 40 meters, 70.025, 70.125. CW only, but 40 meter access. On 15 meters, 21.025 to 21.200, CW only. Still low band access. On 10 meters, from 28 to 28.3, you have CW, ready, and data. And 28.3 to 28.5, sideband and CW, which most everybody runs sideband up there. And you have a 200 watts PEP maximum. Okay, let's go on up a little bit. You have the full band spectrum on 6 meters, 2 meters, 1.25, which I think is the old 220 megahertz band, 70 centimeters, 33 centimeters, and 23 centimeters. And you have access to, you can use up to 1,500 watts PEP on everything 6 meters and above. You've got a CW section, both in 6 and 2, but from 144.1 to 148, you got access to the full band and all the modes. CW in 6 is 50 to 50.1. The rest of the band's yours, all the modes, and you can run 1,500 watts. A lot of guys, I don't like CW. I can't run CW. It ain't that I don't like it, I can't hear it. We've talked about that. But you younger guys that are computer literate, than us old boomers are, there's all kinds of TNCs, nodes, CW interfaces that you can interface on your computer with and work CW with your computer. Just type your message in, it'll decode it, put it right there on the screen for you. You know, guys, if you want to really enjoy this hobby, I just don't want to see somebody limiting themselves strictly to a talkie on 2 meters or 440, because sooner or later you're going to get bored with that. The 10 meter band's picking up a little bit, and we're making a few more contacts, had a few check-ins on our 10 meter round table. I just had to call Astron. Switch went out in my power supply. I guess they don't make them like they used to. That thing, I've had it since '05, so I guess I'm due a $3.50 switch. I ordered me a spare too. Ordered 2 of them since I had to order and pay shipping. But I'm gonna be using my Icon, my 701 here for a few days so I get that switch in to get my power supply back up and going. New techs try to figure out a way to get on the low bands. If nothing else, getting on 10 voice. Look at the computer interfaces for CW, or if you're capable of learning CW, learn it. a lot of people have a lot of fun running CW. WD5HKV, he's made a lot of CW contacts in his lifetime and is trying to get his speed back up, start running a little CW again. It's just another aspect of the hobby that you have access to. So don't think that just because you got a tech ticket, you can't get on the low bands. And don't let anybody tell you not to buy a full up HF rig just because you're a tech, because you might want to use it on the other bands. Well, you have access to the other bands in CW. And I've said this before. You passed your license, you know the rules, you know where you're allowed to operate at. And one of the signs of being a good, responsible ham radio operator is operating within the limits of your license. And nowadays, it's easier than ever to check somebody's ticket through QRZ. You know, years ago, it would have been kind of hard if, say, I wanted to get on 20 meters as a tech, because there just wasn't anybody on the internet able to check unless they had a call book, a current call book. More likely, I'd have never been checked. I didn't do that, though, because that's part of the rules. I wasn't going to operate outside of my license privileges. So, if you can get a full up rig, get one. MTC's got several used rigs up there. They're giving, some of them got 30-day warranty in store on them. It's a good place to check out. I was in the store the other day and looked at a couple he had up there. So, be a place to check out a rig. Or a 10 meter mobile if you just want to get on 10 and not do CW and work 10 voice. If you find a 10 meter mobile, just be sure that it's got sideband on it, upper sideband, because that's the only place you're allowed to work voice is upper sideband. Well, we've hit 554. One day it's 555. One day it's 554. I don't understand Google and YouTube, but I'm doing good on the subscribers. I appreciate everybody who subscribed to the channel. Remember, you got a lot of good YouTubers out there, other YouTube channels to watch, so check them all out on ham radio. Remember, Main Trading Company, Paris, Texas. A lot of good Facebook pages. Our roundtable, we still run at Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Friday nights, 7:30 Central Standard Time to usually about an hour on 28,450 or up. We're usually there at 470. Like I said earlier, if there's a net on 450, even if we're there first and the band opens up and they have a net, we're going to relinquish it and let them have it for their net. That's just a polite thing to do. Appreciate everybody who subscribed to the channel. Hope everybody has a great week. This is KB5MIQ Big Boy 73.